It's a doggone nightmare. Scared of his own shadow. That's what everyone says about Cooper Holmes. But when the Holmeses move into a new house deep in the woods, scary things really do start happening. Problem is, no one believes a scaredy cat like Cooper. But then no one else heard the bone-chilling barking late at night, or ran into two evil-looking dogs who disappeared into thin air.
Welcome back to another episode of Goosebumps Overviews, the show where we talk about Goosebump books and judge them on their merit. And after an entire year of not uploading any content, it's my privilege to kick the year off with book number 32, The Barking Ghost. Let's crack into this puppy. So, starting with the cover, like always, it's kind of a mugshot again. We've got a few Goosebump covers like these, where it just shows the cover of the villain of the story. You know, like the Haunted Mask, how it showed the mask and stuff like that. And really, this cover is just another simplistic cover. And don't get me wrong, simplistic covers can be done well, like Stay Out of the Basement. That is a great simplistic cover that sets the tone for the whole book. This, well, there's ghost dogs, I'll give you that. This does not look like the ghost dog, though. It looks like a man in a furry suit trying to be a Labrador. It's not working for you, bud. It looks like a Chihuahua mixed with the Brain from Pinky and the Brain with Labrador ears. That's it. Also, it's got like spooky eyes and the jaw and the drool. Okay, I'll give you a little detail. Kind of cool. Guess it could scare dog haters. Almost said dog lovers. Yeah, I'll scare dog lovers, alright. Scare them right out the door. But yeah, you know, if you're afraid of dogs, then I guess they can be somewhat scary. And if you're afraid of furries, pretty scary too. Our book stars the titular character, Cooper Holmes. Now, one thing you need to know about Cooper is that he's afraid of everything. Also, that's the name of my dog, so it's kind of funny that this book's about, dogs. Funny. So anyway, a lot of parts in this book involve Cooper getting afraid over nothing, which isn't really news because a lot of Goosebump characters often get afraid of nothing, because that's how R.L. Stine builds tension when there's really no tension. Like, for example, Cooper, in the beginning, he throws like a rock at a hose because he thought it was a snake, and like he thought this tree was trying to grab him. I mean, this kid is borderline delusional, because like the first chapter, he gets up several times thinking something's outside. He is just paranoid and delusional. Kind of sounds familiar, actually. Anyway, this poor kid's constantly being tormented by his brother, so that's not helping his delusional problems. And he just moved to Maine. You know, all that crazy shit happens there in Maine. Thanks, Stephen King. By the way, there is a pretty funny reference to Stephen King here, where Cooper says that the only two books that he's ever read, took place in Maine. I got you, Stein. You think you can slip that past me? I don't think so. So Cooper begins hearing dogs barking late at night, and at one point it sounds like they're right outside his window. But when he goes to investigate the next day, there's no evidence of dogs. Eventually, wanting to prove himself, wanting to be a braver, true Super Cooper. Yeah, that was kind of a name made to make fun of him, but he kind of adopts it to, you know, build up his courage. This kind of motif of him being more courageous kind of disappears halfway through, but a lot of plot points get dropped in these, so who cares? Anyway, he goes exploring the woods and he comes across these dogs who attack him, and he runs home screaming, "Oh, the dogs are after me!" And nobody sees him. He comes across this girl in the woods named Margaret Ferguson, aka Fergie. Like the Duchess. What Duchess? What the? R.L. Stein, I love this. He makes the point that Fergie runs really fast, and Cooper's like, I don't know why they say, boys are really fast, because all the girls that I know run faster than any boy I know. So, feminism, I guess. Does that count? So, Margaret tells Cooper that the house he's staying in is completely haunted. The woods, the house, everything, and he has to leave right now. Of course, Cooper, being gullible, instantly leaves, goes to tell his parents. His parents think he's a fucking idiot, which, by the way, he is. He is an idiot. You will see in the second half of this book that he's an idiot. At one point, and we kind of believe what Margaret's saying, because at one point she stares off into the distance and says, "Dogs." The very next page, she forgets that this happened. I didn't say dogs. What are you talking about? Maybe this is just Cooper's imagination, or maybe R.L. Stein wanted to have a link between Margaret and the dogs and just dropped it. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the book kind of hints at that, but we never really get anything. But anyway, later we find out that Margaret was just playing a joke on Cooper because Mickey, Cooper's brother, told her to. And, they resolve their differences and they become best friends, I guess. Whatever, makes sense to me. But Cooper keeps getting into confrontations with these dogs. And at one point, they're in the house. No joke. He gets up and there's a bunch of dogs running around the living room destroying things. Nobody hears this but him, by the way. So this kind of builds on the fact that, experiencing one thing that no one else can see, and you're wondering if this is really true or all in Cooper's head. I mean, for a little bit. Because eventually Margaret gets pulled into this. By the way, Margaret has lived in the woods for, I assume, all of her life. Never come across these dogs until Cooper points it out, and then she actually begins hearing them. Parents and Mickey, nah, they don't hear shit. But Margaret and Cooper, they hear all this stuff. So yeah, the first half is basically Cooper being haunted by these dogs, and that's unfortunately the best part of this book. I mean, the part where they're in the house, he doesn't know how they got in, and they jump through the wall. That is the scariest point. I mean, hell, I'd be scared if I got up in the middle of the night and there were like two rabid dogs in my living room. I'd freak the hell out. Jesus, that'd scare me. But yeah, that's the only really interesting part about this. And I was hoping we'd get like more information on the dogs, but nope, we don't. So that's my non-spoiler review of the book. There's some spooky shit, and none of it gets really built on, and the second half happens, and it is just retarded. Borderline retarded. I mean, yeah, just. Yeah. It's kind of like the Camp Nightmare book, where I read the second half and I'm just done. And the ending of this book makes the second half even worse because it renders everything pointless. Everything pointless. Yeah, I just love that. So, before I get to the rating, I'm going to do a little spoiler part of this episode. I'm going to start talking about, giving away more spoilers. I think I've done that in a few episodes, but I'm going to start talking about the second half and the ending in 3, 2. Eventually, one night when Margaret's sleeping over, the dogs attack again. So, Margaret and Cooper in the middle of the night decide to go investigate, and they get dragged by the dogs to this shack. Of course, Cooper and Margaret, they kind of go willingly, even though they're kind of aware that if they tried running away, they wouldn't be able to make it, but they still go. They still go. So the dogs drag them into this shack where they reveal that they're not dogs. They're people. That's about all you're going to get on the information on the dogs. And they take them to this shack, the switching shack, and they switch places. Okay, cool. So yeah, the second half of the book, it's Margaret and Cooper in the bodies of the dogs, and the dogs in the bodies of Margaret and Cooper. So, instead of exploring, the concept of the dogs deeper, Cooper and Margaret, they just try to, get their bodies back, But they try to get it back in the stupidest ways. So, Cooper thinks that if he breaks into his house while his parents are eating dinner and eats the liver off the table, because, by the way, Cooper likes liver, he thinks that if he eats the liver, his parents will think, oh, that's our son. That's fucking stupid. No, dogs will eat anything. You know what they're going to think? Oh, a rabid dog just broke into my house and ate my dinner. That's what happens, by the way. At one point, they try to pick up a pencil and write a note. And then they were like, oh, wait, I have paws. I can't hold a pen. Smart. I didn't even mention the first way they try to explain that they're dogs. Cooper just walks up to them and starts barking at him, expecting, to form coherent sentences. Or, in fact, words. Yeah, he's just borderline retarded. And by some miracle, they manage to switch back. They get the dogs. They get the imposter Cooper and Margaret back to the shack to switch places. And you know what happens? They turn to chipmunks. The end. If I had to rate this book, I'd give it a 5 out of 10. Dogs aren't explained. The second half's so stupid. And the ending sucks and makes the second half worthless. I gotta admit, when I read the ending, I was just kind of depressed as a kid. I'm like, wow, life is meaningless. Yeah, it just renders everything pointless. I guess the retardation gave me a few laughs, but yeah. If you read this book, first half is the best. Let's just leave it at that, guys. Alright, that has been my review of book number 32, Barking a Ghost. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned for tomorrow's episode, The Horrors of Camp Jelly Jam. Have a scary day.